Excited?
I'm very excited.
Very excited. Cool beans. Well, thank y'all for joining us today. My very first question for y'all is, tell me about the origins of K-pop. And I'm specifically going to direct this question towards Hey Jean, because Hey Jean has written us a wonderful little discussion slash blog for the UNT Music Library about the origins of K-pop. So Hey Jean, start us off in like 2 minutes. This is a challenge. In 2 minutes, tell me the origins of K-pop.
Okay, I'll speed run this as fast as I can.
You got it. Go.
There are 4 generations of K-pop as we know right now, but besides K-pop, there's another genre in Korea called trot, and trot is basically the genre that kind of pushed K-pop into everything that we know today. So trot originated in 1910, 1945 during the Japanese occupation, and trot is a genre that's pretty energetic, pretty lively, colorful, but it took influence of Japanese enka, American, European, Korean music, and it's very repetitive rhythmically, and has an energetic sound. But another thing is that during this time in 1950, after the Korean War started, Korean people didn't have electricity to be able to consume media. And so during this time, popular genres such as swing, pop, and funk were the only type of genre that was being consumed by US soldiers that were stationed in Korea. And so these 3 genres were able to intertwine itself into Korean low culture. And then with this, it led to more genres and more Western genres being able to be popular in Korea. And so as more Western genres became popular, there was a decline in popularity for trot. But we are seeing an increase in popularity for trot now in this present day because of a trot music competition in Korea. But that being said, with the increase in Western media and popularity, and also the help of Michael Jackson and his dancing and singing, a lot of the K-pop artists around 1970, 1980s, they were like, oh, Michael Jackson singing and dancing. We can do that. And so that set kind of the basis of what K-pop could be. And that being said, a lot of entertainment companies start coming together. They get artists and they check out all these young trainees, and then they debut them. And then we have the K-pop we have today because of the help of swing, pop, funk, US soldiers, trot, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Hey Jean. That's pretty cool. Now, Jess, you do a lot of stuff with the history of K-pop as well. Can you talk a little bit about your research into the history of K-pop?
Yeah, definitely. My research is more specialized in the integration of hip hop into K-pop, as well as rap and stuff like that. And I have like a whole presentation that I do for Casey and stuff. But kind of going off where Jean started or kind of left off, like in the 90s is where you kind of start to see like more integration of American culture into K-pop and stuff. And you see, and this is when the golden age of hip hop came in. So that's when you start seeing like artists from like NWA, you start seeing, Tupac, Biggie, all these artists are coming in. And the Korean population is hearing this and they're like, this is really, really cool. Let's go off of that. And then that's when you start seeing artists like Soteji and Boys, and they're kind of branching off into making their own entertainment. And then like in the 2000s, you start seeing more underground hip hop artists become more popular, like Drunken Tiger and Verbal Jint and the Dynamic Duo. And then like in the 2010s is when you start seeing that huge boom. There's a song called Itjima by Keith Ape that really kind of blew up the Korean hip hop as a whole genre internationally, like completely. and that was mainly the catalyst to put K-pop and K-pop rappers on the map for international audiences.
That is so cool. And like the whole history of K-pop is so important, like to ethnomusicology as a whole. And I feel like just Hey Jean and Jess, you two talking about this, y'all need to get together and write like these really cool papers and really cool books and get this stuff out there. It is so neat. See, y'all are on the forefront of music history. This is cool stuff. Well, on the topic of like hip hop and, on the same topic, dance, like dance is a huge part, like Hey Jean was talking about with Michael Jackson and things like that. Jenny Lynn, you're big into what we call KCE or the Korean Culture Exchange. Can you talk about that and the importance of that here at UNT and what that is?
Yeah. So I'm the president of KC, and what KC's main goal is to exchange cultures between UNT students, specifically about Korean culture as well, not like how big it is. There's even this phenomenon known as the Hallyu wave, where it's just the spread of Korean culture internationally. Like it's really crazy like how far that Korean culture has reached, and we want to, gather people who have that interest in Korean culture, and that's like the music, the fashion, dances, things like that. So that's what we do.
That's so cool. Jess, how has KCE impacted you as you being a member?
I've been a member for years now. I've met so many incredible people, both from America and from Korea and from all over the world via this club. It has been just a great way for me to meet people, to learn about different cultures going on, to talk more about my culture, being an African American, and then also, language exchange. I'm very interested in learning Korean and learning all different kinds of Asian languages.
Okay, so I'm going to open this up to the whole room. Y'all ready? Here we go. So the big thing about K-pop's music. Music draws us all into this. So, okay, what draws you to this music and how did you become a fan? So anybody can hop in. Go ahead.
For me, at least, I actually grew up with K-pop because I am Korean, and so I always thought K-pop was different with American music. It was mainly because the melodies, I think, for me, because they're so catchy. And even though it's pop and it's K-pop, it's such a big realm, and you have so many genres and so many other little aspects and little spices of flair, I guess. And that's just what brought me into K-pop, really. And yeah, it's part of my childhood, I guess.
I would say for me, I remember in 2012 when Psy kind of blew up with Gangnam Style, and that was more when I was like in middle school. And then I want to say at some point in high school, I was like, listening to some old playlists, and I was like, oh, what's Psy been up to lately? Because I really like that song, and I want to see what he's up to now. And he had released a new song, and then I saw just like a whole tab of like other things, and I was like, I remember my friend saying something about Big Bang like 4 years ago. So I clicked one of those songs and it just went downhill from there.
For me, it was kind of like like a very slow burn into K-pop. Like it started with Wonder Girls, Nobody, but I didn't know that was a K-pop song because I heard the English version. And then it was Psy's Gundam Style. But that didn't get me into K-pop yet. And then it was my friends mentioning Shiny and how they were really into it, but that didn't get me into it yet. And then it was eventually in high school when my friends were trying to get me into BTS and I wasn't really into it. There was this compilation video that I saw of one of the members being really cute, and I was like, oh, He's adorable. And then that's when I actually started getting into like K-pop as a whole.
It's a dangerous, slippery slope. We fall into, I don't know what it is. Jalen, I feel that. We actually have a question in the chat that I think is quite relatable to what we're talking to. And question is, who do you stan? And can somebody here in the group define what to be a stan? Like, what does that mean, especially within the K-pop fandom?
I can give my best bet at it.
Yeah,
So-
go ahead. Go ahead.
Standing is basically you're a fan and you like to collect their merch or just support them in any way, retweet whatever they tweet, stuff like that. And for me, I stand 17 and Stray Kids. So if you're a carrot or a stay, put yourself in the comment and I would like to see if you're a carrot or a stay.
I also stand 17, very huge fan.
Let's go.
My entire apartment is just covered in their merch. And then my other ones I would say are probably NCT and Shiny and Vix.
For me, it's BTS, 17 twice, Red Velvet, and Dreamcatcher probably. Oh, and Monster X. I just saw that.
So cool.
Mhm.
Y'all have such good groups. I'm seeing all kinds of good groups popping up here in the chat and stuff. I'm a big Stray Kids fan. I said that at a KCE meeting the other about a month ago, I guess, when we went and talked. I'm a big Mama Moose stan. I'm wearing my Blackpink stuff today. Big Blackpink stan. So yeah, I think the music is certainly very catchy today. You can hear a lot of Western influence on the music. Is really fun. You hear just, I feel like K-pop is just so global now, and it's fun, and the dancing is fun. And I really want to talk about the dancing because I feel like that's really, really become a global phenomenon. You go on YouTube, you see rehearsal videos of the groups dancing and showing you kind of how to do the dances. You're seeing like them on TV shows in Korea doing the dances, fan groups doing the dances. So like, would anyone here like to speak about like dance groups and like what it's like to learn the choreography?
Absolutely. This is my special this is my special interest. In general, when K-pop first started, there was like some groups were doing like catchy dances, but it wasn't like anything too notable until the group Shinhwa kind of came onto the scene, and then because of them, they kind of stepped up and started having these like more intricate dances. And then you see like TVXQ and with their song Neurotic, that song kind of just put K-pop dancing on the map basically. And then also like Girls' Generation and stuff. And then that kind of put the dancing at another level than you see more Western artists doing. So it became kind of like a challenge for fans and stuff to learn these dances because you see these live stages that they're doing like every other day posted onto YouTube through their like TV specials that they do, like Music Bank and stuff like that. And then so people are trying to learn the dances through these live stages from the different angles that the cameras are coming from. And then K-pop companies are starting to notice this, and so they're posting like dance practices, which make it way easier to learn these dances because it's just a fixed camera and you can just sit there and look at your favorite member and learn their dances and stuff. Personally, I teach all the dance workshops right now that KCE hosts, which we're having one later today. um, I It's easy for me personally to learn dances just by looking at them. But I know sometimes just watching the video is a little bit more difficult for other people. And so when you go to like these workshops and stuff, the moves are kind of broken down into a simpler language, and it's easier to learn from somebody standing in front of you and explaining that all the different um, moving pieces of a move. I could talk about this all day. I'll put it out for other people as well.
Yeah, and something I wanted to add to that is that a lot of the artists like it when fans participate in what their dances do too. So on TikTok, they would post like dance challenges, and then those would go viral, and they'd retweet or like I don't know, post their fans covering their dances, and then also like a lot of the music variety shows are posting like random dance plays, and so that's also a really big thing that's going on, and a lot of fans like to participate in like KCON and all those K-pop festivals. So it's all pretty interesting. It's a fun experience for both the artist and the fan.
It's also like the iconography of some of the dances. Like some of them are just really recognizable just by looking at it without even hearing the song. Um, I also want to add that like when learning the dances and like being at some of the dance practices and stuff, it's really funny that sometimes teaching dances kind of turns into just nonsense words. Like you move like kung kung ta, tin tin ta, like that. Sometimes that's how we used to explain it, and that usually works as well. But yeah, it's really fun to like learn a lot of these dances.
And are there, like, I'm seeing in the chat, Lydia pointed out like UT used to holds regular dance workshops. So like, do other schools and colleges have these dance groups? And like, I know KC holds like their semesterly dance festivals, which are super cool. I've been to the past couple to table and stuff, and I always hang out and watch, and they're really fun. And you see different groups. So there's certainly people staying and dancing and hanging. And so like there are schools doing this. They're out there. How do you find them? Like how do they appear? Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Yeah. I know in just the DFW area, most schools in general will have some kind of, organization or club, whether it's official or unofficial, that does this stuff. And it's pretty easy to find them on YouTube. Um, just kind of like searching up the school and then like K-pop dance or like public K-pop dance and stuff like that. Um, it's I think as of right now, we have TWU and UTA guest performing for our festival this year. Um, there are also a lot of just like self-made groups in the DFW that I know of. I'm a part of Asterix. I know there's Prismix and Reboot going on somewhere in the DFW area. There's also Elysium and Fusion that I know of, Cherry Blossom. They're all just kind of, groups made by like a group of friends that just want to dance the K-pop dances and either make their own videos or they go perform in public places or they go to festivals. It's just a really nice experience.
That is so cool. Kathleen in the chat said that there's a group semi-active at JHU and that their dance department had a choreographer who specializes in K-pop as a guest artist last spring. That's so cool. Like the dances are important and they're neat and they're complicated. They are so hard. And it's so cool that people are going out there like fans like y'all and are learning them and taking the time and really getting them down and honoring them, which is awesome. So I've got one more really big question for y'all. Of our segment, we've got about 5 more minutes. So I want to delve real deep into the merch because we all know how important the merch is to this stuff. I certainly do. So one big thing is, we collect CDs, we collect vinyl, we collect Kino devices with DVDs, posters, etc. Let's I want to ask y'all, how important are collectibles? Number one. And then number two, when you can't find the collectible you want, how do you get it? So I'm just gonna put that out there into the world. Whoever wants to start, go ahead.
I can say something real quick, but so I feel like merch and collectibles, like photo cards and little posters, photo cards are basically like Yu-Gi-Oh or like Pokemon cards. So you just collect them and with your favorite member from each little era, which basically means each comeback or each album that they come out with. And so those are pretty popular. And if you don't get the pool that you want, then you can go on like Twitter. I know Twitter is a really good platform to like trade with other fans. So you can go on Twitter, you could go sell it on Mercari, you could sell it on eBay, stuff like that. It's very, at least in my experience, it's very internet based. Because my experience.
Yeah, definitely. I recently was on eBay and bought a discontinued Vix album that I've really been wanting, that had like my favorite member for like all the little pieces of merch, like a poster, mini picture, and a photo card. And I was just so excited about it. Um, I collect the photo cards like crazy. I have all my like little Pokemon card holders of them. Um, I decorate my entire apartment with the posters that I get from these albums. I keep the CDs because my car has a CD player. And sometimes you just want to put on a CD when you're on the road, you know? Yeah.
Uh, for me, I'm not really much of a collector. But I do, because I got my cousin into K-pop and she likes collecting. I get some of the extra stuff. Um, but I noticed that it's like a really big marketing thing for these companies, because not only do they have multiple albums for one, set of songs, I guess. Each version is like a different theme. So you get your members in like different outfits. Um, there's also sometimes they have like a little poster or paper where it tells you like all of the items that are inside. I've done when I've worked with Blaine when trying to find some K-pop albums. I noticed that like there's specialty items that you can get. There's pre-order items that you can only get if you pre-order. It's it's a lot. It's a lot of things that goes into just all of the minor things that come with the album.
There's all kinds of little intricacies. They could be like punch out things. Like the one album I'm sitting on my desk right now is a punch out, but it's to make a little dice. And you're supposed to collect both versions of the album. So when you roll the dice, your two different punch outs that you got makes a specific wording. But I don't have the other version of the album. So I don't know what it is. Oh well, it's really cool though. Thank you, YouTube from GFriend. So it's really cool what these specialty merch things can bring. Lydia in the chat just says Vix was her first favorite band too. And Kathleen says 17 is so good. So like K-pop is so important and this merch is so important, and it's so important for continuing the study of like these fandoms. Like sure, we collect them like Pokemon cards and we joke about that. But in the future, like people might forget who these bands are. And the only things we're going to have left are the recordings and these photo cards. And you're going to pull them out for your grandkids and go, do you remember who this is? And go, I do. It's going to be like your family photos.
Yeah, and something that some of the companies are doing now too is that they're doing electronic photo cards. So I
Oh,
know with
cool.
Weverse, if some of the companies had like a partnership with a company called Weavers, and they have Weavers albums now. And they have a barcode, and if you scan the barcode, you get the album electronically, but also you get electronic photo cards. So yeah, it's pretty new. And I think a lot of the companies are trying to transition into that or trying to dip their toes into that too. But yeah, looking cool.
That is so cool. And so there's a medium for both the people who want physical and the people who want digital.
Yeah.
That's so neat. Yeah, Kathleen says this is a terrible development. There's some people who might want either. Right. You still need to buy the physical. Right. To get the digital. So you have that both. It can be hard. There are people who like digital and there are people who like the physical. So there's always going to be that fight. But it's been great having y'all today. If anybody has any questions for Jess Jean or Jen Lynn, please feel free to throw them into the Q&A. Throw them into the Q&A is the best place. I'll look for them in the chat. And we can even ask them live if you feel like it. We are here for you. We'd love to hear your questions. But it's been great talking to the three of you. We love having you here. We love having y'all here on campus. You are a wonderful part of campus, and it wouldn't be the same without you three. I hope y'all know that.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And so I'm checking everything and I'm not seeing too much. So for now, I'm going to throw it back to Kristen Wolski, who is our moderator for the next section. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Jalen. Thank you, Jess. And we'll go to our next section.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we transition to talking about K-pop as it relates to libraries and cataloging and processing these materials, I just wanted to share this photo of this day just about this time last year, maybe a little earlier. Jenna Lynn and Jess were kind enough to invite us to one of their events, and it was just a beautiful day. I'll really always remember it because it was just the perfect weather and it was a lot of fun. And my first experience watching the dances, I had no idea that this was going on campus. I couldn't believe it. I was just blown away by the choreography. And so it was really great to hear today how you all learn about doing these dances and how it's pursued on campus and around the DFW area. So I just wanted to share that. It was just a fun time. And so as we get started talking about, collection development and adding these materials to collections, Blaine, I have a question for you. And I'm just wondering how you thought it was a good idea to start collecting these materials. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were the one that said, hey, we need to start adding these things to our collections. And so what were you observing either on campus or in the world that you said, this would be great for us to start adding?
I'm going to give a quick shout out to Linda Jenkins. Linda Jenkins is a UNT student in the College of Music. She did a DMA and flute performance. She's a big BTS fan and thought UNT Music Library needs BTS and was a big proponent here for getting us BTS. And so she did a big collection development project for getting us some BTS albums. And so the pandemic happened and Susanna Cleveland, who is the head of the UNT Music Library, and I had a little bit of a discussion when the pandemic started. And she's like, maybe we might want to collect some K-pop stuff. That'd be kind of cool. And I thought, that'd be pretty darn cool. And I have a little bit of familiarity with it, and a lot of my friends are into it, and I was really just getting into it with Blackpink and Mamamoo and a lot of the girl groups like Twice and Girls' Generation. I really am more on the J-pop side of things, have been since I was probably in elementary school, but it wasn't until grad school, embarrassingly enough, that I really transitioned more into K-pop. And I decided, well, this is my time. And so I started doing some more collection development stuff, and just really dug into it, looked more into who's popular. And this was in the summer of 2020, who was popular, and started looking into that and looked at different charts and what was popular on Spotify and the Oricon charts. And eventually we ended up doing some purchasing. And then I pulled in Jen Lynn as the next step. And Jen Lynn started doing a bunch of research for me and did a lot more on the collection development side. And when we continue our K-pop purchasing, she's going to be the next step in that process. So thank you, Jen Lynn.
Okay. Thank you, Blaine. Also, as you were starting to catalog these and then Sabino was getting his hands on these materials, what are some of the challenges that were presented to you? Are these materials in any way a little bit different when it comes to cataloging them? Are there any prerequisites to cataloging these materials?
I mean, naturally, they're CDs, they're DVDs, they're vinyl records. They're the same as any other item, other than them being in a different language. The only caveat you may find is that you may have strange mediums. For example, I think Sabino might have it. You may have mediums such as the Kino player or a Kino device. These are specific devices developed by entertainment companies in South Korea. And you plug them in to the bottom of your phone. Can't really do much like that anymore. My phone doesn't have an audio jack. So that's a little strange now. They've changed them now, so now that they work on like a Bluetooth. But this was an older version. I think it's a 17 album, isn't it? Yes, sure is. Kathleen also agrees. Yes, it is. So these Kino players, those cause a little bit more of a challenge. But luckily, a lot of these, they act in the same way. Oh, a lot of these act in the same way as most other items do when we catalog. We have processes for cataloging CDs and vinyl records and DVDs. Where it gets tricky is when things come in multiple versions, because, for example, one BTS album might come in 4 separate versions. Love has LOVE, you know, things like that. The one Twice Summer Nights album, I think, has 3 different versions to it. Things like that. And you have to make sure that, do you have all 3 versions? If you don't, you need to either catalog it separately as that separate version, or are you going to catalog it as one big thing? You need to make those decisions. Collectibles are also the other big problem. Collectibles can be different from item to item to item. Each version's not going to have the same photo card. They're going to be random. You could have a different idol in a different version. So what we end up doing is we end up making the records very general. We say random photo card, but we end up trying to say there's at least going to be one photo card in this one, et cetera, et cetera. So that's usually where problems lie.
So I'm curious to learn more about the different versions, and I was wondering if Jess and Heijin and Jenna Lynn can maybe pop back in. How important is it for libraries to have the different versions, in your opinion? Does anyone have an opinion on that?
I personally, for the semi-newer album that 17 released earlier this year, Face the Sun, I think there's like 20 something different versions of that album. They all have like the same CD, but like there's the big albums with all the fun things in it. They come with like 5 photo cards, a photo book. It comes with like tattoos and pictures and posters and all of that in just one album. And then there's, the regular smaller album with like maybe a couple photo cards in the CD. And then they have an album for each individual member that has photo cards specifically of that member. and it comes with a CD. And I mean, you can collect all 20 odd versions of that, but I mean, at some point it's like, do you push and pull? Do you need all of those versions?
Yeah, this is a good comment here in the chat. We have to know which versions we have since they can be considered distinct editions from the metadata standpoint. So yeah, this can start to get a little complicated. And so I'm wondering, Sabino, if you could share a little bit of information about how do we start keeping track of all of these collectibles from an access standpoint?
So because all of these photo cards and photo books, they are collectible. We run the risk of checking them out to patrons and then some going missing. And so we keep in the records strict notes of what photo cards are in in each version, and we keep each version stored in these polypropylene pouches. They're like Ziploc baggies, but they're made for storing things and they're archival safe. And depending on the size, because we do get some who like they have a poster in it, and so we get a bigger pouch for that. And there's some of the collectibles. We keep them in here, and then we're planning on getting a list created to put in each pouch so that people can see what items are in there. But we do let them circulate. We let them circulate 2 hours at a time. But we do let the album itself circulate for a week.
Very neat. And can you talk a little bit more about the Kino and how we have it set up here for students to access that? And Sabina or Blaine jump in on that.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you're wondering how the Kino works.
Essentially, yeah, that would be a great great start. Yeah.
So the Kino, as Blaine mentioned, is a 3mm jack you plug into your phone. We do have connections that can so you can plug it into your iPhone or USB-C from an audio jack. But basically how it works is you download the Kino app, and there are instructions that come with the Kinos on how to download the app. And basically the app has all the content of every Kino, and the Kino player, which is it's called the Kino kit, acts as a key to unlock the content. And so, for example, a patron would come, they would check out the Kino, they would probably already have the app or need to download the app, and they would need to plug this in for them to access the content. Sometimes depending on the Kino, each Kino also has exclusive photo cards as well. Like this one came with about like 50 photo cards, but sometimes there's also digital versions of it that come with access to the Kino. And so so the person who checks it out and gets the access will have access to the materials up until the next person checks out the item. Because basically when the next person checks it out, plugs it in, it blocks the previous user access, and then the next person has access. So there's still the person who downloads it won't have it forever. They'll just have it until the next person gets access. And that's how a lot of the newer Kinos work, mostly because they run, I think it's Bluetooth, as Blaine mentioned. You just tap it next to your phone and it gives you access to all the content. But yeah, they act more as a key to get the content from the app.
Okay, thank you very much for going into that detail. We have some questions in the chat with Kirk Evan related to what did he say? Let's see. And Susanna asked the same follow-up that I had. How do you keep the pouch connected to the main item? And I would actually invite either Kathleen and or Kirk Evan to, if you want to unmute, I can unmute you if you want to join the discussion, and we'd love to learn about what you're doing at your library. We'd be more than happy to do that.
So yeah, we do. The items themselves are shelved next to their their physical material. So for example, I have this More and More album, it's shelved on the shelf, and then the pouch that goes with it is next to it. And so each pouch has a label that says it's 2 hour only, and it's in our oversized collection because they don't fit in the regular shelves. But yeah, they are shelved next to each other. So if somebody wants to check out the CD, they'll be able to see that, oh, there's a pouch next to it. Maybe they want to see the items as well.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Sabino. All right. And then we had a question in the Q&A. How do you store the collectible? For the person who sent that, let us know if you have any additional follow-ups on that. Kathleen, let's see. You're happy to share. Would love to find a way to share some info. Let's see. I will just unmute you, and you're more than welcome to jump in, but no pressure at all at any point. So I have made it so you can yeah.
Hi, Kristen.
Like hi there. There we go. It worked. It worked.
So thanks. I'm Kathleen DeLaurenti. I'm the director of the music library here at the Arthur Friedheim Library at the Peabody Conservatory at Hopkins. I teach a class on K-pop and information science. We are doing semiotics of digita tonight. Should be a fun time. We've got about 130 items in our collection, and right now we've made the decision that the audio is widely available and that the items are not really about the music. So we are actually not circing them. It sounds though like our circ is kind of similar. Like we're basically like you can have it in the library. So we are providing access in the library. We're not buying multiple versions of things right now. But also because you can't buy everything even with multiple versions, right? You never know which photo card you're going to get. You never know the fun things you're going to get. So I think that that's kind of what makes it cool, but kind of what makes the multiple organizations looking at this really interesting and fascinating. And I guess one question I have for all of you that I would be really curious about thinking through this conversation about versions is if there could be like some possibility to maybe collaborate to create some deeper level metadata for researchers and scholars and folks to know like which photo cards in my map of the Soul 7 and which photo cards in yours, and you know, who has the Kino version of that Red Velvet Anniversary and who has the CD. So just to kind of think about some ways we might make the metadata to our collections maybe more useful to potential researchers, given that these are probably things that we're not going to want to send out through interlibrary loan, given the complicated nature of the items.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. Like some really neat database that we could all collaborate on and be like, hey, here's all the stuff in mine. What do you got in yours? Yeah, that would be really neat.
Yeah.
There's
Fantastic.
a question in the chat for the students. Are these items like things you and your peers would check out? Like, or Jess, hey Jean, Jalen, like, are y'all interested in this stuff? Like the collectibles?
Well, I work at the service desk here at the library, and I've actually had a few people check out the collectibles, and they would obviously return them, and then they would tell me like, oh, it was nice to see like what I could get if I did buy this album. So it's like kind of informative for them as too, like, oh, so this is what the photo book looks like in the album. Do I want this album? Do I not want this album? So it's like a good decision maker for them, I think.
I know there's a few members from KCE that I talked to who are very avid returners of the media library and like to check out all the K-pop stuff. And I think it is a good way for, you know, if you're gonna order an album, to know what could come with it, to know kind of, because all the different versions, they're like in different concepts, they're in different outfits, and it's fun to look at, and it's good to know like which version you kind of want to more drift towards, and you can see it and you'd be like, oh well, I really like this, I might want to buy this. And it's also good for like even the like dance groups as well, because I know when we try to like get ready for our performances, we get our, costumes and dress stuff and outfits in order, and we try to match the concepts that the artists are wearing in those, and it's a good way for us to like use it as reference.
One last thing I wanted to note is that this K-pop collection is also really new. So it's really important for us to kind of get the word out there, because I know that a lot of people like there are a lot of times where I ran into people and they're like, I've never been to the music library. It's like, do you know about the K-pop collection? I was like, I had no idea they did that. So yeah, it's just something, a word to get out there.
One of the things that we encountered with tabling for KCE is a lot of the students approached us on the possibility of donating their K-pop albums, mostly because people buy the albums for the collectibles, and so they buy all the versions to have all the collectibles, and now they have 4 CDs of the same album, and so they're like, well, can we give you guys our extra albums, because we really don't listen to them, because we already have one, we have 4 of these. And so I think that's also kind of an important way that libraries can help and also like save from having to buy all these K-pop albums. Is, people have extra copies that they don't want to hold on to, and so we came across that during our last KCE tabling event.
Yeah, that was something unexpected that we hadn't anticipated, but a wonderful surprise that students were wanting and willing to donate materials so that other people can enjoy them. And I'm sharing a photo here. When we have gone and done some tabling with the KCE, we always put out some paper and ask, what albums would you like to see in our collection? And so it's just one more way to sort of help us engage with the students and learn about what we can buy from based on their interests. So I wanted to share that. And so we're kind of coming to an end here. I just wanted to give everybody another opportunity to ask any final questions. Let us know if we've missed something in the chat or Q&A. Don't hesitate to write again if we haven't answered something fully, or if you want to engage in any further discussion for the remaining moments we have with both our library personnel as well as our students. Okay. Haven't seen anything else come through the Q&A yet. Here we go. Here's a question in the chat. Are there any dance resources the library could provide? That is an excellent question. Is our dance librarian here? We have a great theater and dance librarian. And if anybody else from the UNT libraries knows the answer to that question, they would feel free to let us know. Let's see. Yes, I asked the folks putting out the new dance class database about this. They said that they didn't think they would go into the space. Okay. So yeah, no, I think that's a great avenue for us to pursue moving forward, is to interact more with our dance subject librarian liaison and see if there are possibilities there that we can collaborate on. All right, well, Sabino, I'm going to toss this back to you to help wrap us up.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. A special thanks to Jessica Lip, Heijin Rue, and Jenilyn Ruiz for sharing their knowledge of K-pop and Korean culture. There is so much we have yet to learn about K-pop, and I think libraries can play an important role in that learning process. And thank you to all for joining us in this first year chat, K-pop on Campus. Stay tuned for our next chat in the summer, which will be a community show and tell on tackling challenges in music cataloging, processing, and access to weird or specific or special formats. And I encourage everyone who isn't already, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at UNT Music Library, and follow the UNT Libraries on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at UNT Libraries. Thank you all and have a good rest of your day.